If you need some coins for the Trophy Titans promo, make sure you check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a nice 5% discount. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. In today's video guys, I'm going to be showing you some updated custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-3-2-1 formation, which is still what I believe to be the absolute best formation in FIFA 23. But just before we get into today's video guys, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop this video a thumbs up, so that does really help me out with the YouTube search algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics. For the defensive style, I suggest you use balanced. This is just because it gives you the greatest control over your defense, where you're able to press when you need to press, and you're also able to drop off and be a little bit more conservative when you need to be. So balanced is just definitely the best and most consistent form of defense in this game. Now moving on to the defensive width guys, I'm using this on 45 at the moment. This is so we can primarily defend in a narrow shape to block those attacks through the middle, but at the same time we've still got that natural width to cover the wide areas to stop it to stop the attacks when people do go out wide. I kind of like change this between like 40 and 45 depending on how I'm feeling, but it's not too important. Now moving on to the depth guys, I'm using this on 58. The reason for this is we don't want a super low defensive line to the point where we're always getting pinned back, and at the same time we don't want a really high defensive line where we can just get through balled all the time either. So by having the depth on 58, sometimes we can win the ball higher up the pitch, and other times we can sit just a little bit deeper, so we just have a nice balance and control over our defensive line. Now moving on to build-up play guys, I'm currently using this on fast build-up. This is because the gameplay's just felt a little bit quicker for me recently, so fast build-up has been really fun to use. Basically we have a lot of options and people move around very quickly to really start those quick attacks, and it has been really enjoyable to use. If the gameplay is slower for you, however, you can use something like balanced, but when the gameplay is good, fast build up feels really nice to use. Now moving on to chance creation guys, I suggest using direct passing. This is because it makes your attackers bunch up against the defensive players, so you're able to do really overpowered isolation plays, and the players also make the extra movement so you can get that extra pass off in the box to guarantee those goals. So direct passing is just the most meta setting to use. Now some people don't like direct passing, that is fine, and if you're one of those people, I would suggest something like forward runs. Basically it just pushes your team very far into the opponent's half, but just be warned, when you lose the ball with this setting, you might get counter-attacked very easily. So direct passing or forward runs depending on what you prefer. Now moving on to the attacking width guys, I'm using this on 48 at the moment. The reason we do this is we don't want a super narrow width to the point where our players are like sat on top of each other, and we don't want a really high width, otherwise it makes the formation feel like a 4-3-3. So we kind of just go for something in the middle where we still primarily attack in a narrow way, but we've still got a bit of natural width between our players. Now moving on to players in box guys, I'm just using this on 6 at the moment. This is what I mainly use all the time, and the reason for this is we can get some players into the box to create chances, but at the same time we don't overcommit the entire team to the point where we get counter-attacked. As for corners and free kicks, I have these both on 1 because there is a corner kick routine that I still use, which requires both of these to be on 1. There is a link to that in the top right hand corner of the screen. Now moving on to the players you want to use guys, in the striker position I suggest going for a nice well-rounded player. This is because you have to compensate for the fact that there's one striker instead of 2 in this formation, so it's important that you use somebody that is balanced and can do a bit of everything. So you're going to want somebody that can shoot, dribble, pass, basically do a bit of everything in attack, and if you can get it like a 5-star weak foot or the 5-star skills, super beneficial to use. Now moving on to the left forward and the right forward, I suggest you guys use good winger style players. Now, these are players with really good pace, good dribbling, good passing ability, good shooting ability, basically just those really good winger style players. You're not going to want to use players that are super clunky or really slow, or players that have no dribbling ability, because you might struggle to use this formation otherwise. Moving on to the left centre mid, I suggest using a more box-to-box style midfielder. This is somebody that is going to attack and defend for us, so they're going to do a bit of everything. And if you can get it, a high work rate is super beneficial, as you get the maximum contribution in attack and defense. But if you can't get that high work rate, don't worry too much. Just go for somebody with very well-rounded stats in attack and defense. Now, moving on to the middle centre mid, guys, I suggest using a more defensive midfielder. This is somebody that is just primarily going to stay back and break up the play for us to add defensive support. So you're going to want somebody with really good defensive stats, and if you can get it, a medium-high work rate is super beneficial, so you get the maximum contribution in defense and they're not too bothered about attacking. Now, moving on to the right centre mid, I suggest you guys use an actual attacker. Now, this will make more sense in the player instructions, but this player is not actually going to play as a centre mid. So you can use an actual attacker here, and it's something I would suggest. So somebody like an Mbappe, Alawaran, Jairzinho, Neymar, any really good attacking player in this position. Now, moving on to the fullbacks, I like to go for a balance between the two, where I have one more attacking minded fullback, someone that's better on the ball on the left hand side, and then on the right hand side I have somebody that is a bit more defensively sound but maybe lacks that attacking ability. So we've just got a nice balance between the two fullbacks. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, these just need to be as good as you can get them. There is not much to say about them, to be honest with you. Now, moving on to the player instructions, guys. On the striker, I just have him on stay central. We have him on stay central because we always need him to be in those central areas where a striker should be. We don't need him drifting off into the wider areas, as we already have like a player on each side to do that. So in my case, it's Di Maria and Jairzinho. So we do need him to stay central where a striker should be. And I also have him on mixed attack instead of getting behind. This is so he gets more involved in the build-up play, because if you put them on getting behind, sometimes it makes you like very one-dimensional, and it can actually be difficult to create like varied attacks, because you know you're very one-dimensional in your attacking approach. So mixed attack is better in my opinion. Now, moving on to the right forward, guys, I just have him on stay central. The reason I do this is because we don't really want him drifting off into the wide areas, because although he is like one of the wider players in the team, we don't want him drifting too wide, otherwise it plays out like a 4-3-3, and we don't really want that. So by having him on stay central, it means we can primarily keep that narrow approach to the attack, and it just plays out very nicely. We also have him on mixed attack, so he can do a bit of everything and we don't restrict him all that much. Now, moving on to the left centre forward, we just have him on comeback on defence. Now, the reason for this is it makes this team defend in a 4-4-2 shape. So by putting this player on comeback on defence, he's going to come back to defend as a left mid in the 4-4-2 shape. Now, the reason we do this is because the 4-4-2 is a much better defensive formation than the 4-3-2-1, as you can cover many more areas. So putting this player on comeback on defence means he will be a left mid in the 4-4-2. Now, moving on to the left centre mid, the more box-to-box style player, we have him on default settings and cover centre. We have him on default settings because we don't really want to restrict this player too much. We want him to do a bit of everything, and we just have him on cover centre, so he does defend as one of the centre mids in the 4-4-2 shape. Now, moving on to the middle centre mid, the more defensive minded player, we have him on stay back while attacking and cover centre. Now, we have him on stay back while attacking because he is the more defensive minded player, so we don't want him going forward, so we just put him on stay back. And like the left centre mid, we have him on cover centre, so he does defend as one of the centre mids in the 4-4-2 shape. Now, moving on to the right centre mid, where we've got an actual attacker, we have him on get forward, get into the box cross and cover wing. We have him on get forward because he is an actual attacker, so we do want him to join the attack. We don't really need to worry about his defensive work. We have him on get into the box for cross, so he does make the transitional runs into the penalty area, because otherwise they can be like very passive and static when you get to the penalty box, because they don't really commit into the box to get involved. So get into the box cross fixes that issue. And then importantly, we have him on cover wing, so he does defend as a right mid in the 4-4-2. So the midfield's going to look like, for me, it'll be Di Maria left mid, Pogba left centre mid, Jorginho right centre mid, and Chiesa right mid. That's just when we're defending. Now, moving on to the fullbacks, guys, on my more attacking fullback, the left back, I have him on balanced attack and overlap. The reason we do this is because the 4-3-2-1 is obviously a narrow formation, and sometimes we just need that wider option. So balanced attack and overlap means this player is going to join the attack and he's going to make the overlapping runs to add extra width for us. Now moving on to the right back, my more defensive minded fullback, we have him on stay back while attacking and overlap. We have him on stay back, so we've always at least got 3 defenders back, and then we have him on overlap because in case we trigger a run with like the left bumper for example, he's going to make the overlapping runs to add extra width. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, I just leave them on default settings. I do not touch them. But yeah guys, they're my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-3-2-1. If you guys have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.